The diplomatic station floated in the silence of space, a massive structure built by dozens of alien species working together. Inside, the air was carefully balanced to suit every breathing creature from across the galaxy. Corporal Doyon Kim stood in the human quarters, looking out at the stars through the large window. He still couldn't believe he was here, representing Earth at the first official meeting between humans and the Galactic Council. 3 months had passed since the aliens arrived on Earth. They came in peace, offering friendship and knowledge. They said humanity was ready to join the greater galactic community. Everyone on Earth celebrated. The news showed images of alien ships hovering over major cities, their ambassadors stepping out to shake hands with world leaders. It was the greatest moment in human history. But joining the council wasn't simple. There were rules, forms to fill out, procedures to follow. One of those procedures was the weapons declaration. Every new species had to tell the council exactly what weapons they possessed. It made sense, Doyen thought. The council wanted peace, so they needed to know what everyone had. Ambassador Hyjin Park walked into the room, carrying a digital tablet. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. Before becoming Earth's lead diplomat, she had been a prosecutor, known for never losing a case. She looked at Doyon and smiled. "Corporal Kim, I have an assignment for you," she said. Doyon straightened up. "Yes, Ambassador. The Council needs our weapons declaration by tomorrow morning. The presentation is scheduled for 1000 hours in the Grand Assembly Hall. I need you to prepare the list." She handed him the tablet. Doyon took it and scrolled through the requirements. This seems straightforward. Rifles, missiles, tanks, aircraft. Should take a few hours to compile from our military database. Ambassador Park nodded. Exactly. It's mostly a formality. Every species does this when they join. Usually takes about 30 minutes to present. The council representatives sit there, nod politely, and approve the membership. Easy. I'll have it ready, ma'am. Good, I'm counting on you. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Corporal? Be thorough. The council appreciates attention to detail. After she left, Doyon sat down at his desk and opened the military database. He started with the obvious items. Handguns, rifles, machine guns, grenades, mortar. Then the bigger stuff. Tanks, armored vehicles, artillery pieces, fighter jets, bombers, helicopters. Naval vessels came next. Destroyers, submarines, aircraft carriers. Then the really serious weapons, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, chemical weapons, biological weapons, nuclear weapons. He worked for 2 hours organizing everything into neat categories. The list was already quite long, but that made sense. Earth had a lot of countries, and each country had its own military. When he added everything together, humanity possessed quite an impressive arsenal. Doyon leaned back in his chair, feeling satisfied. He saved the file and was about to close the tablet when something made him pause. Ambassador Park's words echoed in his mind. Be thorough. He opened the council's official guidelines again and read them more carefully this time. The document asked for all items, devices, and materials that your species considers weapons or could employ in combat situations. Could employ in combat situations? Doyon frowned. That was broader than he initially thought. He opened the database again and started a new section. Historical weapons. Swords, spears, bows and arrows, crossbows, catapults, trebuchets. Humans still made these things, even if they weren't standard military issue. Some countries still trained soldiers in knife combat. Archers still competed in the Olympics. Then he thought about improvised weapons. During his military training, instructors had taught him how to fight with whatever was available. Entrenching tools could be used as axes. Bayonets turned rifles into spears. Even helmets could be used to strike an enemy in close combat. The list grew longer. Doyon stood up and paced around the room. His mind was racing now. What else could humans use as weapons? He thought about history. Farmers fighting with pitchforks and scythes. Protesters throwing rocks and bottles. Prisoners making shanks from toothbrushes and razors. He sat back down and kept typing. Rocks, bottles, chains, ropes, pepper spray, tasers, stun guns. Sports equipment too. Baseball bats, hockey sticks, golf clubs. All of these things had been used as weapons at some point in human history. The sun set outside the station window. Doyon didn't notice. He was too focused on his task. The list had grown from 3 pages to 10 pages, then to 20 pages. He organized everything into categories: conventional military weapons, historical weapons, improvised weapons, dual-use items, sporting equipment. Around midnight, Lieutenant Minji Choi stopped by his quarters. She was a military historian assigned to the diplomatic mission, and she had an incredible memory for details. "Still working on the weapons list?" she asked. "Yeah," Doyon said, rubbing his tired eyes. "I thought it would be simple, but the more I think about it, the more complicated it gets." Minji looked at his screen and whistled. "That's already pretty comprehensive. Is it, though?" Doyon asked. "The Council wants to know everything we could use in combat." "I'm trying to think like they would. They're aliens. They don't know humans. They don't know our history. What if I leave something out and it causes problems later?" Minji sat down next to him. "You're right to be thorough. Let me help. What categories do you have so far?" They worked together through the night. Minji remembered weapons from different historical periods and cultures. Doyon added everything to the list: blow darts, boomerangs, slings, morning stars, maces, flails, tools that doubled as weapons, axes, hammers, saws, drills. As dawn approached, Doyon reached a new category that made him pause. Household items? His pen hovered over the tablet. Could he really list kitchen knives? Frying pans? Scissors? But humans had used all of these things as weapons before. It was documented throughout history. People defended their homes with whatever they had available. During wars, civilians became soldiers and fought with whatever tools they could find. Doyon added a new section to his document. Household items. The list was now 70 pages long. He looked at the time. 6 in the morning. His presentation was in 4 hours. He had not slept at all. He tried to review what he had compiled, but his eyes were too tired to focus properly. Ambassador Park arrived at 7, looking fresh and professional. She found Doyon half asleep at his desk, surrounded by empty coffee cups. "Corporal Kim, are you ready for the presentation?" Doyon stood up quickly, nearly knocking over his chair. "Yes, ma'am. The list is complete. Well, mostly complete. I might have gone a bit overboard." She took the tablet and scrolled through the document. Her eyes widened. 70 pages? "You said to be thorough, ma'am." Ambassador Park kept scrolling. Her expression changed from surprise to concern to something that might have been amusement. "Corporal, this is very thorough. Perhaps too thorough. Should I cut some items out?" She thought about it for a long moment, then shook her head. "No, if we're going to do this, we should do it properly. The Council wants to know what humans consider weapons. This is what we consider weapons. All of it." Doyon felt relief and dread at the same time. "The presentation is going to take longer than 30 minutes. "Yes," Ambassador Park said quietly. "Yes, it is." At 9:30, they walked together toward the Grand Assembly Hall. Doyon carried the tablet with his 70-page document. He had no idea that by the end of the day, the entire Galactic Council would look at humanity very differently. He had no idea that his thorough little list would become one of the most famous documents in galactic history. He just hoped he wouldn't embarrass Earth on their first official day as Council candidates. The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous. Doyon had seen pictures of it before, but standing inside was completely different. The ceiling stretched up so high he could barely see it. The walls curved in a perfect circle, with viewing platforms arranged in rising tiers. Each platform held representatives from different alien species. All watching the center stage where Doyon now stood, he counted 47 different species in the room. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Doyon struggled to identify which parts were heads and which were limbs. There were insectoids with shimmering carapaces, reptilian beings with scales that changed colors, floating spheres of contained gas, and creatures that seemed to be made of living crystal. At the highest platform sat Council Mediator Vrelthas, an insectoid whose body was covered in blue-green chitin. His compound eyes reflected the lights of the hall like tiny mirrors. Next to him sat Security Chief Chixara, a massive reptilian warrior whose species had served as the Council's military arm for thousands of years. Ambassador Park stood beside Doyun, her expression calm and professional. Lieutenant Minji Choi sat nearby with additional documentation, ready to provide historical context if needed. Vrelthas clicked his mandibles together, and the room fell silent. "We welcome the human delegation," his translator device announced. "Corporal Doyun Kim will now present Earth's weapons declaration. This is standard procedure for all species seeking Council membership. Please proceed." Doyun activated the holographic display. A three-dimensional image appeared above the center stage, visible to everyone in the hall. "Thank you, Mediator Vrelthas," Doyun began. His voice echoed in the vast chamber. "I will now present humanity's comprehensive weapons inventory." The first section appeared in the hologram. Images of rifles, pistols, and machine guns rotated slowly in the light. We begin with conventional firearms. These are handheld weapons that propel metal projectiles using chemical explosives. We have numerous variations, from small personal defense weapons to heavy machine guns capable of sustained fire. The aliens nodded. Several made notes on their devices. This was familiar territory. Most spacefaring species had gone through similar technological developments. Doyun continued through missiles, bombs, and explosives. Then armored vehicles, aircraft, and naval vessels. The aliens remained attentive but showed no particular concern. When Doyun reached nuclear weapons, there was a brief murmur in the hall, but Vrelthas simply noted that humanity's nuclear technology was comparable to what 30 other member species possessed. 2 hours passed. Doyun's throat was getting dry, but he continued. He moved into the next section. We now come to historical weapons that remain in limited use or could be reproduced quickly if needed. The hologram changed. Medieval weapons appeared: swords, axes, maces, spears. Then older items: bows, crossbows, slings, atlaut. Then siege weapons: catapults, trebuchets, battering rams. An alien observer named Tholman, whose species breathed methane and sat in a sealed environment suit, raised a tentacle. "Excuse me, Corporal Kim. These weapons appear to be from your primitive past. Why include them in a military inventory?" Doyun had prepared for this question. "Because humans still train with these weapons. We still manufacture them. And in certain situations they remain tactically useful. A crossbow makes no sound. A sword requires no ammunition. Our history has shown that sometimes old methods work better than new ones." Tholman settled back, seemingly satisfied, but as Doyun continued, the mood in the hall began to change. He showed them how humans used fire as a weapon. Flamethrowers, incendiary bombs, Molotov cocktails. He explained Greek fire, napalm, and white phosphorus. The images showed forests burning, buildings engulfed in flames, and the calculated use of fire throughout human history. Lieutenant Minji stood and added historical context. Fire has been humanity's weapon for over 1 million years. We are perhaps the only species in the galaxy that has such a long relationship with controlled combustion. Several aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Doyun moved to chemical weapons. Poison gas, tear gas, pepper spray, herbicides, defoliants. Then biological weapons. Diseases weaponized for warfare, toxins derived from plants and animals. He explained calmly and professionally, but with each new item, the atmosphere in the hall grew heavier. 4 hours into the presentation, Doyun reached the section on dual-use items. This was where things got complicated. Many human technologies serve both civilian and military purposes, he explained. Commercial drones can be modified for surveillance or explosive delivery. Civilian aircraft can transport troops or be converted into bombers. Satellites provide navigation and communication, but also military intelligence. Industrial chemicals have peaceful applications, but many can be converted into explosives or poisons. Security Chief Chixara leaned forward, her reptilian eyes narrowing. You're saying that your civilian infrastructure is also military infrastructure? In a sense, yes, Doyon admitted. Humans have difficulty separating the two. Our history has required us to be flexible. The aliens began talking among themselves. Doyon heard the buzz of multiple translator devices working simultaneously. Vrelthas called for order. Please continue, Corporal Kim. The next section made things worse. Improvised weapons. Doyon showed them how humans could create weapons from ordinary materials. Fertilizer bombs, acid attacks, poisoned food and water. Vehicle ramming, arson, he explained prison shanks made from toothbrushes, melted plastic, and sharpened metal. He showed them weapons hidden inside pens, belts, and shoes. Our military trains soldiers to improvise, Doyon said. We teach them to look at any environment and identify what can be used for attack or defense. A rolled-up magazine can be used like a baton. A newspaper can be rolled tight and used to strike. Sand can be thrown to blind an opponent. Rocks are always available as projectiles. Hour 5 arrived. Doyon's voice was hoarse, but he pushed forward. He reached sports equipment. These items are used for recreation, but they are also effective weapons. Baseball bats are common self-defense tools. Hockey sticks have been used in riots. Golf clubs can strike with considerable force. Even tennis rackets have been modified for combat in some situations. Minji provided examples from human history. Sports riots where fans used their equipment as weapons. Prison uprisings where inmates fashioned weapons from recreation yard materials. Protest movements where sporting goods became tools of resistance. Counselor Drethik, whose species resembled large rabbits with 6 limbs, stood up suddenly. This is disturbing. You're describing your recreational items as weapons. I am simply being accurate, Doyon replied. The council asks what humans consider weapons. These items can be and have been used as weapons. Drethik sat down, visibly shaken. Doyon checked his tablet. He was exhausted. His legs ached from standing. His throat burned. But he was almost finished with the main categories. Just one more section remained. He looked up at the assembled aliens. They stared back at him with various expressions that he couldn't quite read. Some seemed curious. Others appeared concerned. A few looked outright alarmed. I have one final category to present, Doyon said. The hologram changed. Images of everyday household objects appeared. A kitchen knife, a frying pan, a rolling pin, a glass bottle, cleaning chemicals under a sink, a heavy book. Household items, Doyon announced. The Grand Assembly Hall fell completely silent. Not a single alien moved or spoke. Even the translator devices seemed to pause, as if they couldn't believe what they were processing. Vrelthas stood up slowly. His compound eyes reflected 1,000 points of light. When he spoke, his voice was very quiet. Corporal Kim, are you saying that humans consider ordinary household objects to be weapons? Yes, Mediator. We do, Vrelthas' antennae twitched. I see. I believe we need to take a recess. We will reconvene in 1 hour. As the aliens filed out of the hall, Doyon heard them talking in worried tones. Ambassador Park approached him with an expression he couldn't read. Well, she said quietly, this is going better than I expected. Really? Doyon asked. Oh, yes. No one has tried to quarantine Earth yet. That's progress. Doyon wasn't sure if she was joking. He had a feeling the next hour was going to be very interesting. The council's private deliberation chamber was smaller than the Grand Assembly Hall, but far more crowded. 47 species representatives packed into a space designed for quiet discussion. Right now, it was anything but quiet. This is madness, Counselor Drethik said, his large ears flat against his head. They consider everything a weapon. Kitchen utensils. Cleaning supplies. What kind of species thinks this way? Security Chief Chixara stood with her arms crossed, her scaled face thoughtful. A dangerous species? Or a very practical one? I haven't decided which yet. We should halt the presentation, another counselor suggested. A floating methane breather bobbed anxiously in its containment sphere. We have heard enough. Clearly, humans are too violent for council membership. Vrelthus stood at the center of the room, his mandibles clicking as he processed information on his datapad. Before we make any decisions, I have been reviewing human history files. I believe we need to see this presentation through to its conclusion. Why? Drethik demanded. What more could they possibly tell us? They've already admitted that their entire civilization is one giant armory. That is not what they said, Vrelthus corrected. They said these items can be used as weapons. There is a difference. I want to understand that difference. Chixara nodded slowly. The mediator is correct. We must see this through. If we reject humanity based on incomplete information, we may be making a grave error. My species has fought wars for 3,000 years. I recognize a warrior culture when I see one. But I also recognize something else in these humans. Something I cannot quite identify. After much debate, the council agreed to continue. They returned to the Grand Assembly Hall to find Doyun standing exactly where they had left him. Ambassador Park and Lieutenant Minji were speaking quietly with him. When the aliens resumed their seats, all three humans stood at attention. We will now continue with the household items section, Vrelthus announced. Please proceed, Corporal Kim. Doyan nodded. Behind him, Technician Jiwon Bei, a human IT specialist, had been busy during the recess. New demonstration videos were loaded and ready to display. Thank you, Mediator. I understand this section may seem unusual, so I have prepared visual demonstrations to provide context. The hologram activated. It showed a human kitchen, bright and clean, filled with ordinary objects. The kitchen contains numerous potential weapons, Doyan began. Kitchen knives are the most obvious. Humans use them to prepare food, but they are also the most common weapon in close-quarters combat. Statistics show that more human deaths occur from kitchen knives than from many military weapons. The video showed different types of knives: chef's knives, paring knives, bread knives, cleavers. Each one was demonstrated cutting through various materials to show its sharpness and effectiveness. Several aliens made uncomfortable sounds. Forks can be used to stab, Doyan continued. Rolling pins are heavy clubs. Pots of boiling water can cause severe burns. Glass bottles can be broken to create sharp edges. Heavy ceramic plates can be thrown or broken and used like knives. The video showed each item in action, using ballistic gel dummies to demonstrate the potential damage. Minji stepped forward to provide historical context. Throughout human history, domestic violence and self-defense situations have frequently involved kitchen items. Additionally, during wars, when civilians were attacked in their homes, they defended themselves with whatever was available. Kitchen items were often the first line of defense. The presentation moved to other rooms in a human home. Bathroom items, scissors, razors, mirrors that could be broken into shards, heavy bottles of shampoo, cleaning chemicals that could burn or poison. Bedroom items, belts that could strangle, coat hangers that could be straightened into stabbing implements, lamps that were heavy clubs, pillowcases that could be filled with objects and used as flails, living room items, fire pokers, heavy bookends, letter openers, even books themselves. Doyan showed a video of a large hardcover book being swung with enough force to break a wooden plank. A human encyclopedia can weigh several kilograms, he explained. Concentrated force on a small spine creates an effective striking weapon. Libraries have documented cases of people being injured by thrown books. The garage and tool shed sections were particularly disturbing for the alien audience. Hammers, screwdrivers, wrenches, saws, axes, crowbars, power drills, hedge trimmers, rakes, shovels. Each tool was demonstrated on the ballistic gel dummies. Humans use these for construction, repair, and gardening, Doyan said. But every tool is designed to break, cut, crush, or penetrate materials. Those same principles apply to combat situations. Chixara leaned forward, studying the demonstrations intently. These tools are designed for maximum efficiency. A hammer that can drive nails through wood can certainly crack a skull. A saw that cuts timber can cut flesh. I see the logic, even if I find it disturbing. The video shifted to show improvised weapons from household materials. Extension cords used for strangling. Duct tape used for restraints. Plastic bags for suffocation. Rope for binding or hanging. Even common salt and pepper could be thrown in eyes to blind attackers. "This is too much," Drethik said, standing up again. His voice was shaking. "Every item in a human home is a potential murder weapon. How do they live like this? How do they sleep at night knowing they are surrounded by death?" Doyan looked directly at the counselor. "With respect, sir, we don't think of our homes as filled with weapons. We think of them as filled with tools. The fact that tools can be used for violence doesn't change their primary purpose. But we are aware of the potential. Our awareness is what keeps us safe." Ambassador Park added, "Human children are taught from a young age to be careful with knives, to respect hot water, to use tools properly. This education reduces accidents and injuries. We learn to coexist with dangerous items through training and respect." The presentation continued. Doyan showed them prison weapons called shanks. Made from materials like toothbrushes melted and sharpened, plastic utensils filed to points, and even tightly rolled paper hardened with water and dried to create stabbing implements. In human prisons, where dangerous items are restricted, inmates still create weapons from basic materials. This demonstrates human ingenuity and resourcefulness. When humans want to create a weapon, almost anything will suffice. A crystalline entity on one of the upper tiers spoke through its translator. "This is horrifying. Your species cannot be trusted. You have just admitted that humans will create weapons from anything, even in controlled environments designed to prevent violence." "Actually," Minji interjected, "this demonstrates our problem-solving abilities. The same creativity that allows a prisoner to make a weapon from a toothbrush also allows a scientist to make a vaccine from a virus, or an engineer to make a shelter from debris. Human improvisation works in all directions." The hologram showed more examples. Aerosol cans turned into flamethrowers. Batteries and steel wool creating fire. Basic chemistry sets from schools used to create explosives. The list seemed endless. Vrelthas watched everything carefully. His compound eyes tracked each demonstration. Finally, after nearly 2 more hours, Doyan reached the end of his presentation. "This concludes the household items section," he said. His voice was barely a whisper now, nearly exhausted from 6 hours of continuous speaking. The hall was silent. Every alien representative stared at the humans with a mixture of fear, confusion, and something that might have been respect. Security Chief Chixara stood up. Her voice was loud and clear. "I have a question for the human delegation. Is there anything that your species does not consider a potential weapon? Anything at all?" Doyan, Ambassador Park, and Minji looked at each other. They had a quick whispered conversation. Finally, Doyan turned back to face the council. "I would need to consult with cultural experts to give you a comprehensive answer," he said carefully. "That might take several more hours." The Grand Assembly Hall erupted into noise. Aliens were talking over each other, their translator devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Some were arguing for immediate rejection of humanity's application. Others were calling for more information. A few were suggesting that Earth be quarantined until the Council could properly assess the threat. Vrelthas raised his forearms and clicked his mandibles loudly. The noise gradually subsided. "We will take another recess," he announced. "This time for the remainder of the day. The Council needs time to process what we have learned. We will reconvene tomorrow morning to discuss how to proceed." As the aliens filed out, many of them cast nervous glances at the human delegation. Some walked quickly, as if eager to put distance between themselves and these strange, dangerous creatures who saw weapons in everything around them. Doyan, exhausted beyond measure, collapsed into a chair. Ambassador Park handed him a bottle of water. He drank it gratefully. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked quietly. "No, Corporal," Park said. "You did exactly what I asked? You were thorough. Perhaps too thorough, but thorough nonetheless. They're terrified of us now. Some of them, yes, but fear is not always bad. Sometimes fear is respect wearing a different face. We'll see which one this becomes. In the medical bay, Counselor Drethick was being treated for stress-induced symptoms. His species had evolved as prey animals and still carried deep. The human quarters were quiet that evening. Doyan sat on his bunk, staring at the ceiling and thinking about the day's events. His throat still hurt from 6 hours of talking, but more than that, he felt confused. He had simply answered the council's questions honestly. Why did that create such chaos? A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Ambassador Park entered, followed by a woman Doyan had never met before. She was older, perhaps in her 50s, with kind eyes and a calm presence. Corporal Kim, this is Dr. Sunwoo Yoon. She's a xenopsychologist, a specialist in alien psychology. The council has requested that she explain human thinking to them tomorrow. Dr. Yoon smiled and shook Doyan's hand. I watched your presentation today. It was remarkable. Also terrifying. But mostly remarkable. I'm not sure I understand what went wrong, Doyan admitted. Dr. Yoon sat down across from him. Nothing went wrong, Corporal. You simply revealed something about humanity that we normally take for granted. You showed the aliens how humans think. And that scared them. But why? I was just listing items. Let me ask you something, Dr. Yoon said. When you look at a pen, what do you see? Doyan thought about it. A writing instrument, but also something that could stab if held correctly, or be thrown, or used to mark a trail, or taken apart for its spring and ink tube. Exactly. When a human looks at any object, we automatically see multiple uses. We pattern match. We think about potential. Most alien species don't do this. When they see a pen, they see only a pen. Their minds are more specialized. Ambassador Park added, the council members are trying to understand why we think the way we do. Dr. Yoon will help explain our evolutionary history. The next morning, the Grand Assembly Hall felt different. The mood was more serious. Medical staff stood by in case any representatives needed assistance. Counselor Drethick was present, but sat in a special comfort pod designed to reduce stress. Dr. Yoon stood at the center stage, with Ambassador Park beside her. The holographic display activated, showing images of early Earth. Thank you for allowing me to speak today, Dr. Yoon began. I understand yesterday's presentation was disturbing for many of you. I hope to provide context that will help you understand humanity. The hologram showed early humans walking upright across African plains. Humans evolved on a dangerous world. We had no natural armor, no venom, no claws, no fangs. We were not particularly fast or strong compared to other predators. By all rights, we should have gone extinct. She paused, letting that sink in. But we survived. We survived because of 3 abilities: tool use, pattern recognition, and adaptability. Humans learned to see potential in everything around us. A rock could be a hammer. A stick could be a spear. A cave could be a shelter. This ability to reimagine objects saved our species. The hologram changed, showing human history across thousands of years. Hunters, farmers, builders, warriors. We became persistence predators. We would chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We learned to read tracks, predict behavior, understand patterns. Our brains developed to see connections and possibilities. This is why we see weapons everywhere. Our survival depended on seeing possibilities everywhere. Security Chief Chixara spoke up. My species also evolved as predators. We have claws, teeth, armored scales, but we do not see weapons and household items. Because you didn't need to, Dr. Yoon explained. Your species had natural weapons built into your bodies. Humans had nothing. We had to create everything we needed from our environment. Over millions of years, this shaped how we think. The presentation continued. Dr. Yoon showed human wars, famines, natural disasters, and struggles for survival. She explained how humans faced constant resource scarcity and competition. Nearly every human culture has experienced warfare. Not occasional conflicts, but constant, generational warfare. For most of human history, peace was the exception, not the rule. This is why we developed such extensive knowledge of weapons. Survival required it. Ambassador Park took over, showing charts and historical data. Human history is marked by innovation born from necessity. We invented agriculture when food was scarce. We invented medicine when disease threatened us. We invented weapons when enemies attacked us. Each innovation required seeing new possibilities in existing materials. She showed examples of human adaptability. Inuit people surviving in Arctic conditions. Desert peoples thriving in extreme heat. Island cultures navigating vast oceans. Humans in every environment finding ways to survive with whatever was available. This is the key to understanding us, Park said. Humans are generalists. We don't specialize in one environment or one method. We adapt, we improvise, we overcome. An elderly alien named Elder Kixthere spoke from the highest tier. His species was one of the founding members of the Council, ancient and wise. I have been reviewing the species files. Most Council members evolved as either predator or prey with specialized abilities. The insectoids have natural armor and colony coordination. The crystalline beings can manipulate electromagnetic fields. The methane breathers can survive in environments that would kill most life. Each species has a strength. He paused, his ancient voice carrying across the hall. Humans have no single strength. But perhaps that is your strength. You are the only species in the Council that evolved to be good at everything instead of excellent at one thing. Dr. Yoon nodded. That is an accurate assessment, Elder. Humans are generalists who excel at improvisation and lateral thinking. We solve problems by combining ideas in unusual ways. The same creativity that makes weapons from household items also allows us to make medicine from mold, music from air vibrations, and art from colored mud. The discussion continued for hours. Dr. Yoon answered questions about human psychology, culture, and evolution. She explained why humans valued innovation, why we taught our children to question and explore, why we celebrated creative problem-solving. Counselor Drethik, still in his comfort pod, asked quietly, "But doesn't this make humans dangerous? If you see weapons everywhere, if your entire history is warfare, how can we trust you not to turn that creativity against us?" Ambassador Park answered carefully. The same history that taught us to fight also taught us to cooperate. Humans survived because we formed communities. We learned to trust each other, to work together, to share resources. Yes, we fought wars. But we also built civilizations, created art, explored space, and sought out other species to befriend. Our adaptability includes adapting to peace. Security Chief Chixara had been quiet for most of the session. Now she stood, her scales shifting to a thoughtful green color. I've been considering what I learned yesterday. At first, I thought humans were dangerous. But now I see something different. Humans are survivors. You have faced every challenge your world could throw at you, and you survived by being creative, adaptable, and relentless. She looked around at her fellow counselors. I believe humans could be valuable council members precisely because of their unusual thinking. We have many challenges in the galaxy. We face problems that our specialized species struggle to solve. Perhaps humans, with their generalist approach and creative problem-solving, could help us see solutions we have missed. Vralthus clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. That is an interesting perspective, Security Chief, but we must still determine if the benefits outweigh the risks. Elder Kixthere spoke again. I propose a test. We have debated human danger and human potential. Let us move from theory to practice. I suggest we place a human in a completely empty room and observe. If humans truly see weapons in everything, what happens when there is nothing? If we can find a limit to human weaponization, perhaps we can find peace of mind. The council murmured in agreement. It seemed like a reasonable test. Ambassador Park looked at Doyon. Corporal Kim, would you be willing to participate in this test? Doyon stood up. He was tired of being discussed like a specimen. He was tired of being feared. Part of him was frustrated that his simple, honest presentation had caused so much trouble. But another part of him understood why. The galaxy needed to understand humans before accepting them. "I volunteer," Doyon said clearly. "I will enter your empty room. I will show you what a human does when there is nothing." The council agreed. They would prepare the test chamber overnight. Tomorrow would determine humanity's fate in the Galactic Council. Tomorrow would reveal whether humans were too dangerous to join civilization, or whether their unique perspective made them invaluable. That night, Doyon couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the empty room. What would he do when there was truly nothing? He didn't know. But he understood that his actions tomorrow would speak for all of humanity. No pressure, he thought darkly. In the medical bay, additional staff were called in. Counselor Drethic's condition had worsened. The stress of confronting humanity's nature had overwhelmed his nervous system. He would survive, the doctors assured everyone, but he needed rest and sedation. Several other counselors requested anxiety medication as well. The galaxy was learning that first contact with humanity was unlike any previous first contact. Humans challenged assumptions and revealed uncomfortable truths. Tomorrow would show whether those challenges were worth embracing. The test chamber was perfect in its emptiness. White walls, white floor, white ceiling. The surfaces were smooth, without seams or marks. The lighting came from panels embedded flush with the ceiling, providing even illumination with no shadows. The air was controlled, temperature steady, no vents visible. The room was 3 meters by 3 meters, just large enough to move around comfortably. Doyon stood in the center, wearing his standard military uniform. The door behind him sealed shut with a soft hiss. Above him, hidden behind one-way glass panels, the entire Galactic Council watched. In the observation room, dozens of aliens crowded around monitors and viewing screens. Some stood on platforms to get better views. Others watched through their own devices, recording every moment. Counselor Drethic observed from a medical pod. Heavily medicated but insisting on witnessing the test, Vrelthas spoke through an intercom. "Corporal Kim, you are now in a sealed chamber. There are no objects, no furniture, no loose materials. We have constructed this space to contain nothing that could be used as a weapon. You will remain here for 1 hour. We will observe your behavior. You understand?" "Yes, mediator. I understand. You may begin." Doyon took a deep breath and started with the obvious. He examined the walls, running his hands along the smooth surfaces. He felt for weak points, temperature variations, any kind of seam or flaw. The walls were solid, well constructed. He pressed against them with his full weight, testing their strength. They didn't budge. He looked up at the ceiling. The light panels were flush and covered with protective material. He couldn't reach them anyway, even if he jumped. He checked the floor, tapping it with his boot heel, solid, no hollow spaces beneath. In the observation room, Chixara watched intently. He is assessing the environment. Standard military behavior? He wants to understand his prison. Dr. Yoon, who had been invited to observe, nodded. He's gathering information. This is how humans approach any new situation. We need to understand before we act. After 5 minutes of examining the room, Doyon moved to the next logical step. He tested himself as a weapon. He dropped to the floor and began doing push-ups, then sit-ups, then squats. He went through a basic combat training routine using his own body weight as resistance. "What is he doing?" an alien observer asked, confused. "Exercise," Ambassador Park explained. "He's maintaining his physical readiness. A human's first weapon is always their own body. Fists, feet, elbows, knees, teeth. We can always fight with ourselves." Doyon continued his routine for 15 minutes. He shadow-boxed, throwing punches and kicks at imaginary opponents. He practiced grappling movements, wrestling with the air. He demonstrated various combat techniques, each one designed to disable or kill using only his body. "This is disturbing," Drethic whispered from his medical pod. "Even with nothing, he practices violence." "He practices defense," Dr. Yoon corrected gently. "There's a difference." He's not attacking anyone. He's maintaining his ability to protect himself if needed. After the exercise, Doyan sat down in the center of the room. He closed his eyes and appeared to meditate. His breathing slowed. His body relaxed. Minutes passed. Vrelthas leaned forward. What is he doing now? Conserving energy, Park said. Also thinking. Humans are problem solvers. Right now he's analyzing the situation, considering options, planning. But Doyan wasn't just meditating. His mind was working through the problem methodically. The room was designed to contain nothing. But that wasn't quite true. It contained air. It contained light. It contained him. And that meant it contained possibilities. He stood up again. This time, he did something that made several aliens gasp. He removed his boot. Then his belt. Then his jacket. He laid each item on the floor carefully, examining them one by one. Why is he undressing? Someone asked. Because clothing is tools, Minji explained. She had joined the observation room to provide context. A boot can be a bludgeon or thrown as a projectile. A belt can be a whip, a garrote, or a tripwire. Buttons can be projectiles. Zippers can cut. He's cataloging his resources. Doyan demonstrated each item's potential. He swung the boot, testing its weight and balance. He snapped the belt like a whip. He showed how the buckle could be used to strike. Then he put everything back on and returned to sitting. Time passed. 30 minutes. 40 minutes. Some observers grew bored, expecting nothing more to happen. But Dr. Yoon watched Doyan's face carefully. She could see his eyes moving, tracking along the walls, studying the light panels. Analyzing the airflow. At 45 minutes, Doyan did something unexpected. He walked to one corner of the room and stood very still. He lifted his arm and slowly blocked the air vent with his hand. The vent was barely visible, just a tiny grill near the ceiling, but he had found it through careful observation of air movement. Alarms began beeping in the observation room. The environmental systems detected a pressure change. He found the ventilation system, a technician reported. He's restricting airflow. Vrelthas clicked his mandibles rapidly. What is he doing? Dr. Yoon smiled slightly. He's demonstrating control. He's showing you that even in an empty room, a human can affect their environment. If this were a hostage situation or an interrogation, he could use this to negotiate. He could make demands. He could create pressure. Doyan lowered his arm and stepped away from the vent. He had made his point. Then he did something else. He walked to the door and knocked on it in a specific pattern. 3 short knocks, 3 long knocks, 3 short knocks. That's Morse code for SOS, Minji said. The universal human distress signal. But he's not in distress, Chixara said, confused. No, Park agreed. He's communicating. He's showing you that humans don't just fight. We talk, we signal, we negotiate. Even when we appear to have nothing, we have language. We have communication. We have the ability to reach out and make contact. The hour ended. The door opened. Doyan stepped out into the observation room. He looked tired but calm. The assembled aliens stared at him with expressions ranging from fear to admiration to deep thought. Elder Kixthir spoke first. Corporal Kim, we gave you nothing. Yet you found ways to use your body as a weapon, your clothing as tools, and even the room itself as a negotiating tool. Was there truly nothing in that room you couldn't weaponize? Doyan thought carefully before answering. Sir, I think you're asking the wrong question. Yes, I can see weapons in everything. Yes, I can turn almost anything into a tool for violence. But that's not what defines humans. What defines us is choice. He gestured to the empty room behind him. I could have tried to break through those walls. I could have attempted to damage the light panels. I could have done many harmful things. But I didn't. I demonstrated possibilities, but I chose restraint. That's the human ability that matters most. We see all the options, including violence, and then we choose what to do. Ambassador Park stepped forward. This is what the Council needs to understand. Yes, humans are dangerous. Yes, we see weapons everywhere. But we're also the species that chose to stop killing whales, to preserve forests, to reach out to the stars in peace instead of conquest. We have the ability to destroy, and we choose to build instead. A new voice entered the discussion. Captain Taeyang Shin, the senior human military officer, had arrived from Earth. He was older than Doyon, with gray hair and a weathered face that had seen many battles. "The Council fears human creativity," Captain Shin said. "I understand. But let me offer a different perspective. That same creativity makes humans ideal for difficult situations. We thrive in chaos. We excel at impossible problems. We find solutions where others see only obstacles." He activated a holographic display showing human achievements. "We turned disease into vaccines. We turned deserts into farms. We turned silence into music. We turned metal and fire into spacecraft. Yes, we can make weapons from anything, but we can also make tools, art, medicine, and friendship from anything." Security Chief Chikzara stood up. Her scales shifted to a decisive blue color. "I have made my decision. I support human membership in the Galactic Council with a proposal for their specific role." The room fell silent, waiting for her to continue. "Humans should serve as what I will call universal specialists. When the Council faces a crisis that our specialized species cannot solve, we call in humans. When we encounter a problem that requires creative thinking, we ask humans. When we need someone who can work in any environment with any resources, we send humans." She looked directly at Doyon. "You are dangerous. But you are dangerous in a way that can protect rather than threaten. You are weapons, yes, but you are also tools. And the galaxy needs both." Vrelthas considered this carefully. "A unique designation for a unique species. I find this acceptable. I call for a vote on human membership with the proposed role of universal specialists." The vote took 30 minutes. Each species representative had to consult with their home governments. But in the end, the decision was clear. 42 species voted in favor. 3 voted against. 2 abstained. Humanity was accepted into the Galactic Council. There was one additional requirement. Ambassador Park received the official notification with amusement. Human military training manuals and improvised weapons guides must never be shared with other species. They are classified as potentially destabilizing information. "So we're too creative for our own good?" Doyon asked.